Adding dialogue to your game can be hard and take quite a lot of time. In this video, we will cover an easier and quicker way to add dialogue to your game, regardless of the genre of the game that you're making. We will cover how to set up dialogue in your game, how to customize it to match the style of your game, how to add choices and branches, as well as how to set up more complex interactions between your code and dialogue by integrating your game's variables into your dialogue. So, it's time to actually set up the dialogue in our project. Rather than creating our own dialogue system, which can be time intensive and difficult, we'll use a plugin to take care of the heavy lifting for us, which is definitely in the bracket of working smarter, not harder. So to do this, we can go to Asset Lib, search for Dialogue Manager, and we're looking for the Dialogue Manager by Nif and Hode. Click onto this, we can then download it and have access to that in our project. Don't forget to go into the project settings and then plugins and enable the dialogue manager. Now that we've added in the asset, we now have the new dialogue option up here at the top. From here, we can create our own new dialogue files. So for example, test dialogue. And from here, we can see a basic conversation effectively that is available to us to use. Obviously, we can adjust this to cater to whatever we want. As you can see, there's a few things that are here by default. So for example, we have hi, hello, howdy is a optional set of text that is picked at random effectively. And then you have the option of choices. For example, first one, second one, start again. We can use this to build up more complicated and interesting dialogue. But let's see how we can add that into our game before we go any further. Dialogue is only useful if we can have access to it within our game. So what I've done as a simple basic thing is I created an area 3D with a collision shape and a script on it that allows us to select a dialogue resource, which is the actual resource the dialogue manager uses to contain the text that was shown on screen. All I've done is on body entered, I've showed the dialogue balloon, and then we can view that. So in the level itself, we can see I've created a mannequin, given it the conversation area 3D, and a given shape with a dialogue set. Pressing play, I can go in and I can access the dialogue by moving towards the mannequin. There I can see the dialogue appears, I can go through it and I can select the choices using, in this case, my up and down arrows to select what we're doing. That can be quite difficult or time consuming if you're trying to actually test some dialogue before you add it into your game. What you can instead do is from the dialogue manager window, you can select this button here, which is the preview dialogue option. That allows you to access and then modify and test your dialogue without having to actually go into your game and then see it in situ. So that's all well and good, but the default dialogue box isn't particularly inspiring. So how can we make that match the style of our game? So luckily, the dialogue manager resource makes this quite straightforward. By going into Project, Tools, and Create Copy of Dialogue Example Balloon, we can create our own balloon. Once we've done that, we can see that we have the same setup that we saw previously, but we're now able to actually modify this to better fit our own game. So an example might be we might change the color of the text, and we can progress on this in a broader sense. So that's a nice simple change. Obviously, we can also add in things such as portraits that we set when we open up the panel, and convert these into big bubbles rather than necessarily boxes as well. Those changes are automatically then used by default in both the preview and within the game. So you can see this by going into the game or the preview and then activating the dialogue. As you can see, a nice aspect of this is if you do want to change the dialogue that's being used, you can go into the settings, and then you can select the scene that is being used by dialogmanager.show. This gives you full flexibility to adjust this to your heart's content. The text engine has a lot of power and a lot of different things that you can do to add more complexity to your dialogue. So I'm just going to go through a few examples, some of the things that you can do so that you have a better understanding of what you're able to add in. To begin with, we have the tilde, which is used for determining titles. You can then jump between titles, which we'll touch on in a moment. Standard format is where you can suggest a character name and then a line of text. Obviously, you can do this each line for a different line of text. You can also combine lines by having a indentation or by using /n in order to have the multiple pieces of lines of text be part of the same dialogue balloon. By using a percentage symbol, you're able to randomly select between different lines to instead use those. And then beyond that, you can weight these lines by adding a number next to the percentage symbol. In this case, we can see this line is twice as likely as the line below because it adds up to 3 total weight, with it being a 1 weight, and then this is twice as likely as this one. Similarly, you can add a random pair within a given line by using double brackets and then the bar. Adding choices is straightforward. You can select an initial prompt and then on any additional lines, add a dash. Within that, you can then branch to have multiple different pieces of text sub that choice or its consequence from that choice. Now, it's easy to organize. You're also able to jump to a title and a dialog option, which means that you can nest and have more complicated options within these. Similarly, you can jump to a title and when that's finished, return this option, which can be very useful. And similarly, you can then end the conversation, the dialogue. A slightly more advanced example is we can add tags to each line of text. This allows you to add, for example, a mood to a piece of dialogue so you're able to display an appropriate photo. For example, a happy face, a surprised face, etc. On top of this, we can also modify global state and access it in order to decide what's happened. So, for example, you might have a situation where a dialog option is only open to a user of a certain stat or a certain amount of money. You can access your globals, in this case, by project settings, and then globals, and then some property on it to set these things. And you can also call methods on them as well. So that's in terms of getting the value and setting them. And that's just a few examples of some of the things that you can do. I'll leave a link in the description to the documentation, which I highly recommend looking through, as it will allow you to have a broader understanding of what you can and can't do within the tool. And with that, you now know the smart and easy way to add dialogue to your game, as well as how to customize it to match the style of your game, how to add choices and branches, as well as some ways that you can expand the dialogue further to enhance your game. If you have any questions on anything I didn't cover, drop it in the comments and I'll respond. Remember to like and subscribe so the video can reach and help more aspiring game developers. Have a good one.